Hey everybody, Scotty V here, and I'm bringing you part 3 of Corey Walton's interview with David Noble. And I've got the notes. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Picking up where we left off, B teams. Mr. Noble agrees with activating more B teams and using the backups, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing, until the backlogs are cleared up. And what he would like to see is going straight to arbitration as step 3. So you would have step 1 in Formal A, step 2 Formal A, and then step 3 would be straight to arbitration. He said that he's very unhappy with the way that the DRTs handle things and a lot of the decisions that come out of pre-arbitration. As many of you may have known, Corey Walton is a huge advocate of arbitration. That's usually where we get our best remedies at, and I do agree with that. Arbitration is absolutely necessary. A lot of it because management at step 3, they do seem to stonewall at every step across this freaking pond. Let's see. David Noble also went ahead. He talked about his AWOL charges. He lost the Merit System Protection Board as well as the appellate court case. And he ultimately stated that he didn't want to trust the union reps that were actually hostile to him at the time. He went on to also say the reason for his AWOL, and I quote, was to protest the refusal of the USPS to provide him with the holiday pay. He stated that he worked nearly every holiday and he was shorted, regardless of working the last hour on the day before and or the first hour of the day after the holiday. He also went ahead and pointed out that Vince Sombrato, he ended up losing his Merit System Protection Board case because he violated the Hatch Act. For those of you that don't know what Merit System Protection Board is, it's also known as MSPB. And you can go to their website if you want to find out more. The next question that popped up was in reference to Mr. Jackson. You know, is Mr. Jackson being harassed or intimidated or anything along those lines? You know, Mr. Noble does believe that Christopher Jackson over at headquarters over at National is actually potentially being targeted in some way, shape, or form. As you hear Corey saying that Mr. Jackson's been relieved of some of his duties along with Mr. Henry. He is actually encouraging actively for Mr. Jackson to go to the National Labor Relations Board to get relief. You know, and he also states that Christopher Jackson is a hero for the things that he's doing by bringing these charges against Brian Renfro. I agree. Also, we have Boston coming up for the National Convention. David Noble also believes that the membership needs to make the first order of business the charges against Brian Renfro. That should be the first order of business rather than the last. I agree. You know, David believes that there are a lot of dirty elections that are going on right now. He believes that falsification is a criminal offense. After that, he went ahead and he addressed the question about Louis DeJoy being at the NALC National Christmas Party. Yeah, he flat out said it's wrong, and I agree too. Why is it that we, the general membership, dues-paying members, are paying for the Postmaster General to walk around our headquarters building? This just goes to show that National may be in the pocket of management and not so much the opposite way around, where they're not really working for us. And I'm going to have to go ahead and say the more that I see, the more I'm starting to think that they're not working for us, especially with DeJoy being at our Christmas party. Get the hell out of here. Let's see. He went ahead. The next thing he actually addressed that the city and rural, yet again, they need to be part of one and the same union, and that there should be no separation between them. It was also brought up next about Mr. Noble and a drinking habit. David Noble does not have a drinking habit. He's never been to rehab, and he does not drink anymore. Charges that are brought against any national officer, they need to be available, and the officers need to be transparent. Mr. Noble states that he has absolutely nothing to hide. USPS start time changes. David also believes that it's a destructive measure by DeJoy to change the times. Now, I want to give a little disclaimer one more time that I'm paraphrasing some of the things that Mr. Noble is saying, and by no means do I intend to misrepresent anything that he's saying or any position he is taking. All right, next, Mr. Noble believes that the NALC has too many resident officers compared to other unions. We currently have 10 resident officers. Mr. Noble was also asked, would you ever go into management? David started laughing. I couldn't help. I was laughing too. He said he's never going to go to the dark side, so that's always a good thing. When asked about leadership, he believes leadership is setting a positive example on how we should behave. The top 3 issues that he believes the union needs to tackle: pay is definitely one of them. The grievance procedure and making it work is the other one. And then elections. He believes that we need to make sure that our elections that they're full of integrity. Because he believes that having integral elections will scare any incumbent officer. I agree with that. If he was elected president, he said that there would be 3 executive orders that he would like to do. And once again, Mr. Noble, if you're listening, I'm just trying to get your message out there. If I'm wrong, please let me know. Let's see. The first one would be to mount a legal challenge due to the use of CCAs. He would seek an injunction from a federal court. Next, he would want to go ahead and create a computer model of the USPS's finances. That way, it would strengthen the union's position when it comes to bargaining, as well as some other things. The next thing would be the arbitration panel should have 2 or 3 times more people on it. The next one for Article 15, somebody was talking about doing an Article 15.6 contract compliance. Mr. Noble states that he would like to know what we think, and he would like more information on something like that. Mr. Noble's in favor of the retirement buyback credit, but he also states that the NALC created the problem with the DAS award that ended up creating CCAs, as well as, what was it? I think it was Table 2 and, the reduction in pay. He currently does not hold any branch officer position. He would be more than willing to sit down with Postmaster DeJoy and work on making sure that EAS, which is your management team, EAS stands for Executive and Administrative Schedule, that they are held to the same standards that we are. That if they do something wrong, they're going to get a letter of warning. If they continue to do something wrong, they're going to get a 7 or a 14-day suspension, leading all the way up to and including termination. Mr. Noble is more than happy to do that. He also opposes changes to 271. For those of you that don't know, Part 271, it's called 271G, which is a special route count. The Postal Service does want that eliminated because they want to use the TRAP process and all the scanner data. Well, just because you're using all that stuff, in my opinion, guess what? Nothing's going to beat what you have to say as a carrier. Management's not going to count your mail. They're not going to put you on an 1838, and they're not going to count everything every single day. That's nothing more than a scare tactic. And if you're out there listening to me, if management's threatening to do an 1838C, you should smile, because you're probably going to get a couple hours of overtime that day. Mr. Noble also stated about his integrity. If his integrity is compromised, he will be more than happy to resign from the NALC presidency if elected, and if it pops up. Doubling back the dispute resolution process, dispute resolution team, he would like to see them eliminated in the long run. More information about the executive council support. He knows that Renfro and Barner do not support him. He does believe that Christopher Jackson, James Henry, Nicole Ryan, and Corey Walton do support him in some way, shape, and form. I definitely am starting to get on the Noble train because I do want to see some positive changes in national, and I don't think we're ever going to get it with our current administration. So that's something to keep an open mind about. You know, some people might go out there and say, well, David hasn't been there in so much time. But, you can go ahead and say that. You can go ahead and nitpick and scrutinize anything. But the bottom line is that David Noble has carried mail, within the last 12 years, which renders a question. When was the last time our national president, executive vice president, or any of the guys, when was the last time they actually carried mail? Because I do know that some of them are out there that actually still do try and carry mail from time to time. I know my branch president carries mail every Saturday. You stud, you go. You know who you are. Term limits of our national officers. David doesn't think that that's a problem. He thinks that the elections would easily go ahead and make it so term limits are not a problem, because he believes that if we have people that are integral, that will not compromise on who they are, their character, and doing the right thing, maintaining that integrity, he believes that right there would overshadow anything. Who does Brian Renfro and Paul Barner represent? Is it the city letter carrier, or is it management? I'm pretty sure I know what most of you out there are thinking, and I know some of you out there are giving me the finger. Hey, leave it in the comments. Noble believes that they're representing management, and I'm going to have to agree, because we've been over a year without a contract, and we still have no back pay. We're still suffering from the inflation that's happening right now. Let's face it, folks. Our checks aren't going as far as they used to, and it's getting to the point to where we're going to have to start making some hard choices. I, for one, I have a side gig now. Questions have arose about operating in a deficit at National. Mr. Noble doesn't know if there's a deficit going on, but if there is, he does believe that there are ways to cut expenses. He believes that the salaries of the national officers are a little on the high side, especially with Renfro's salary being approximately $300,000. David said that if he is elected to president, he will take the pay of a city letter carrier at the top step only, and then the rest would be donated to any kind of PAC, which is Political Action Committee. He also wants to go ahead and see the in-town expenses eliminated from National. And he would also like to see some per diems eliminated as well. He also made a comment about regional administration assistants, RAAs. He does see that there may be some cost-saving value there depending on what the RAAs do. According to him, he's saying they're not doing the same things now that they used to years past. A question came up about about hip grievances and all that stuff. I really didn't hear an answer that he said. And then we went into something about, Brian Renfro trying to say the carriers are only out to get a pound of flesh about, Mr. Gates, who unfortunately passed away last year in the heat in Texas. May he rest in peace. And that his family find peace and solace in the comfort of their faith in God, knowing that he will rest in peace and he'll be forever be in all of our hearts. It's always sad when someone passes away, especially when it's one of our own. Talking about the 1 hour office time, plain and simple, he said that's a grievance. It's not an inconvenience the way Brian Renfro put it out there. Of course, Brian's going to say it's an inconvenience because he sits behind a fucking desk every day doing nothing. You need to get your head out of your ass, sir. Plain and simple. Because we're the ones that are doing the work. You're not doing anything other than moistening a seat that DeJoy's going to sniff. Or vice versa. And then the last and final point, which is something that I've touched on before and you've heard other people touch on. Do not get out of the union. The union has its own form of corruption right now with Renfro and his cronies that are in that small circle. But we are a union, we are a democracy. We can fix the union. We need to pull together and organize to beat the corruption. That is the message of David Noble, as well as many of the other individuals in our union that are like Angry Mailman, that are like me, that are like Corey Walton, that want to go ahead and step up to fight the good fight to the bitter end, no matter what the cause, because we are city letter carriers and we fight for each other daily. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful to all of you. I took 3 hours and chopped it down to approximately 47 minutes or so, plus some of my own commentary. Thank you all again. I appreciate it. I hope you have yourselves a great day. Sleep well, and until next time, this is Scotty V out.